Hello everyone. So today we'll be starting with Unit 3, which is our judiciary. Okay, so let's see what are we actually going to study in this unit. Students are going to be introduced to the judiciary through these chapters, yet aspects of these systems like the police, the courts, etc. are probably something that students have all are already quite familiar with either through the media or perhaps through their personal experience. In this unit wait yeah. In this unit, the effort is to combine some basic knowledge on the judicial system with more hands-on information on the criminal justice system. Chapter 5, what are we going to study in chapter 5, covers topics that will be reintroduced in the higher classes. The effort while teaching this should be to provide students with a sense of significant role, important role played by the judiciary in upholding, the upholding of the principles which are enshrined in our constitution, whereas chapter 6 explains the role of different individuals, in the justice system. And here it is crucial that students understand the connection between each person's roles, how are they connected to the roles of these people, and the idea of justice for all that the constitution provides. What is the idea of justice according to our constitution, and how actually it is provided to the common people like you and me. Before starting chapter 5, it might be useful to reiterate मतलब re-emphasize. Re-emphasize मतलब फिर से जोर देना किसी बात को. The discussion on the rule of law, मतलब किसी भी देश में किसी भी धरती पे सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ का लॉ होता है, वो तो रूल, मतलब जो उस लैंड के जो रूल्स होते हैं. From the previous unit, this can then lead to a discussion on the role of judiciary in upholding the rule of law. Five separate, though interrelated concepts on the judiciary have been discussed in this chapter. The reasons why the independence of the judiciary. So, independence of the judiciary to take important decisions for the country and for people is very important. Otherwise, if they are influenced by the government of the day, मतलब जिसकी जो जिस टाइम की सरकार हो उस पर अगर कोई उस पर डिपेंडेंट हो, देन दैट्स नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क, बिकॉज देन द डिसीजंस और द जजमेंट्स विल बी टेकन कीपिंग इन माइंड द influence of the government, which is the present government, or the government that is at that particular time, whether it's the state government or the central government. uh, is key to its functioning is a complex idea, but something that students need to understand. This can be conveyed at a more basic level using examples of different decision making processes that the students are similar with. The structure has been illustrated through through a case, and students should be encouraged to discuss other cases to better understand the working of the judicial process. The how process is all that, we'll study that. The last concept of access to justice, we say we cannot just say that India is there is right to equality in India unless it's actually given and people have access to even um, reach out to it, or have actually, I am saying that India is a very, gives me religious freedom to practice my religion and filana dimgana, but if I'm not able to practice it, in reality, then there is no point how much of anything is accessible to people, whether we say the idea of law or any kind of freedom of expression. If it's not actually given in reality and it's only in the books, then there's no point. So we'll study that. The role of the public highlights the role of the public. So public interest litigation is very important in facilitating justice. It also touches upon the delay in providing justice. Sometimes we've heard that their court case is still running. So why is it still that so many cases are pending? We're going to study that. So students growing knowledge of fundamental rights should be used while discussing the section, whereas in chapter 6 has been introduced in order to make students more aware about the roles played by different persons in the criminal justice system and the process that needs to be followed. there's a whole process. You can't just for example, the whole process matlab, first, before going to class 9, you have to pass in class 8. So that's a process, right? So there's a process for everything. We're gonna study that to ensure a fair trial. The chapter takes as its starting point a storyboard in which a case of theft is highlighted, and uses this as its reference points to discuss the role of the police, the public prosecutor, the judge, as well as what a fair trial should include. Is very likely that the students will have their own opinions. You might also have your own opinions, which might be quite cynical on the ways in which the criminal justice system works. Your role as a teacher will be to balance the cynicism with the a discussion of the ideals as outlined in the chapter. This can be done in two ways. One, through a continued emphasis on the links between the ideal functioning, what is ideal functioning, and the principles which are enshrined in the constitution as discussed in the earlier chapters, and through emphasizing the difference that an informed and public and that an informed and aware public, informing and where how a public awareness can make in the working of these institutions. The discussion of the criminal justice system also helps to students understand this better whole process, and not for them to learn by root is matlab you're just learning, you're not understanding, and you're just mugging it up matlab ratta marna. So chapter 5 is judiciary. So let's see what are we actually going to study in this. A glance at the newspaper provides you a glimpse of the range of work done by the courts in this country. But can you think why we need these codes? As you've read in unit 2, in India we've rule of law. What does sorry what this means is that laws equally apply equally to all persons, and that a certain set of fixed procedures need to be followed when a law is violated. To enforce this law, we have a judicial system, and consists of the mechanism of courts that a citizen can approach when a law is violated. As an organ of the state, the judiciary plays an crucial role in the functioning of India's democracy. So, our justice system plays a very important role in claiming that our country is a democratic country. That means here public participation is there, because there we are, in all the key features you've studied about what is actually the democracy, whether it's public participation to elect their representatives, and equality, in the country, and many other so features what is termed as democracy. It can play this role only because it is independent. What does an independent judiciary mean? So we've always been emphasizing that it has to be independent. It has to be independent. We've also discussed, that it shouldn't be influenced by the government of the day. Is there any connection between the court in your area and the Supreme Court in New Delhi? In this chapter, you'll find the answers, and we'll also find linking up different institutions. So, what is the role of judiciary? Courts take decisions on a very large number of issues. They can decide that no teacher can beat a student, or about a sharing of river waters between state, or they can punish people for a particular crime. Broadly speaking, the work of judiciary can be divided into the following. First, like if we say that broadly, what roles does a judiciary does, then we can see that dispute resolution. The judicial system provides a mechanism for solving disputes between citizens and government, between two state governments, and between center and states. A judicial review, a final interpretation of the constitution. The judiciary has also the power to strike down particular laws passed by the parliament if it believes that there is a violation of the basic structure of the constitution. This is called judicial review. So we can see that who's you and I don't know how to interpret law, so it is done by the courts, and if they find that this particular law is violating a fundamental right, or it does not follow in line with the basic structure of a constitution, then it has the right to struck that particular law, or which is violating our constitution. Then upholding the law and enforcing fundamental rights. Every citizen of India can approach the Supreme Court or the High Court if they believe that their fundamental rights have been violated. We talked about the fundamental rights, the six rights that have been given. For example, we talked about the Hakim Sheikh, an agriculture labor who fell from a running train. We studied it in an example in So where we talked about Hakim Sheikh, who fell from a train, and this case was in West Bengal. And yeah, and injured himself, and the injuries were this thing, they were he injured himself. Matlab, it was dangerous for sorry, for like in some hospitals there were not enough beds to admit it. And some said that we don't have the facility, so that we can admit you and get you treated here, you need to have go to a better hospital. So that was there, one of the cases. So whose conditions got worse, because his several, I think 12 hours were wasted in whole, hunting for a hospital to be treated. And that's how there was a judgment by the Supreme Court. He went and he approached the Supreme Court and said that his case was filed, and all that thing happened. The Supreme Court ruled that Article 21, which is right to life, which provides every citizen the fundamental right to live, also includes the right to health. We've all been during this corona time and pandemic, everywhere we've been talking about right to life, or especially the case of Delhi. We talk about right to health, because to live in a good environment because of the Delhi air pollution. It therefore directed the West Bengal government to pay him a compensation for the loss suffered, as well as to come up with a blueprint for the primary healthcare, with particular reference to the treatment of patients during an emergency. So you said that, what is your action plan if an emergency comes? You give me, or you give us your blueprint. We'll see that. Pashchim Bengal Khet Mazdoor Samiti versus State of West Bengal. This was the case in 1996. So here you can see the above photo shows the picture of Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court was established on 26th January 1950, the day India became a republic. Like its predecessor, the Federal Court of India, 1937 to 1949. It was earlier located in the Chamber of Princes in the Parliament House. It moved to its present building on Mathura Road in New Delhi. So presently, the Supreme Court is located in the Mathura Road. Firstly, it was in the Chamber of Princes in the Parliament House, but now it's moved to Mathura Road. Okay. So here is an example. We can fill that which cases will be taken where, like type of dispute between example, like sorry, with the hell. So here is an exercise where we have to give example between dispute. For example, center and state. Usually, center and states, they fight for particular law, or they appoint, or they fight between some kind of law, or maybe this appointment. Sorry, usually the appointment of somebody the center has done in a state. And that's, for example, in Delhi, it's being about the wait, sorry, so I just had to check, because I don't want to give any wrong information. So it's usually about, a lot of times it's about a law which has been passed by the center. And example for the is farm law. So there's a dispute going between center and the state, that is also there. Then appointment, for example, Delhi police commissioner Mr. Asthana has been appointed. So there's this thing, a case also going on, about his appointment, because he's going to retire soon. And that is also there. So this dispute between two states, we've mostly seen for a river. For example, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, case of Kaveri river. Then between two citizens, it's mostly land dispute, or an example is most solid is land dispute. Then laws that are violation of the constitution, remember, like section 377 was removed. I think it was a case, and it was also struck down because it violated our fundamental right. And whom who like who can love who, or so it questions that, and what is natural, what is unnatural. So that is all, the case of every, it's a big detail in case, let's not go there, but I'm just giving you an example here. Yeah, so what is an independent judiciary? Imagine a situation in which a powerful politician has encroached on land belonging to your family. Within this judicial system, the politician has the power to appoint and dismiss a judge from his office. When you take this case to the court, the judge is clearly partial to the politician. The control of the politician holds over the judge does not allow for the judge to take an independent decision. The lack of independence would force the judge to make all judgments in favor of the politicians. Although, you know, we often hear of rich and powerful people in India trying to influence the judicial process. The Indian Constitution protects against any kind of situation by providing for the independence of the judiciary. One aspect of this independence is the separation of powers. This you've read in chapter 1 is a key feature of the constitution. What it means here is that the other branches of the state, like the legislature and the executive, cannot interfere in the work of the judiciary. The courts are not under the government and do not act on their behalf. Do you think that any ordinary citizen, stands a chance against a politician in this kind of judicial system? And why not? See, if I have some personal relations with somebody, so there are natural tendencies, human tendencies, that I might favor them, because I'll say I know this person and I don't think so this person is like this or this, and maybe it's the and I'll just come to a conclusion that it's the other person's fault whom I don't know. So that is wrong, because it's not necessary the people whom we know as, are the same person they have acted with others. So they might also be the, person guilty of that charge. So it's wrong, and that's not how the judiciary works in India. So, and that is why, so that nothing sort of this happens, there's separation of powers. That means that the other branches of the other branches, like the legislature, executive, and the main important judiciary, they are not they cannot interfere in each other's work. There's a sharp line that, differentiates. For the above separation of work well, separation to work well, it is crucial that all judges in the High Court as well in the Supreme Court appointed with a very little interference from other branches of government. Once appointment to this office, it is also very difficult to remove a judge. It is the independence of the judiciary to allow the courts to play a central role in ensuring that there is no misuse of power by the legislature and the executive. It also plays a crucial role in protecting the fundamental rights of citizens, because anyone can approach the court if they believe that their rights are being violated. If you think that your rights are being violated, and if I think also the same, even I can approach you, even you can approach, and anybody in this country can approach. List two reasons why you believe an independent judiciary is essential to democracy. We've already talked about that. It is a right, fundamental right to approach the court if we feel that our this thing is the right is not being provided to. For example, it is important for one itself democracy, because there's public participation. If I am a person who's going to elect somebody, and they're going to come to power and misuse it, then what's the point whole of this democracy judiciary? So it's very important that they all are not dependent on each other, and there is a very clear cut line between their power separation. What is the supreme what is the structure of courts in India? So we're going to study about the structure. Okay, there are three different levels of courts in a country. There are several courts at the lower level, while there is only one at the apex level. The court that most people uh, interact with are what are called subordinate or district courts. These are usually at the district or tehsil or in towns, and they hear many kinds of cases. Each state is divided into district that are presided over district judge. Each state has a high court, which is the highest court of that state. At the top is the Supreme Court, that is located in New Delhi. And is presided by the Chief Justice of India. The decisions made by the Supreme Court are binding on all other courts in India. Okay, so that is there. So here's a clear cut triangle, pyramid. First is at the top level is supreme, then at the middle is high court, then district, which is most of us go through. Then high courts were first established in the three presidencies of Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. The High Court of Delhi came up in 1966. Currently, there are 21 high courts. While many states have their own high courts, Punjab, Haryana share a common high court at Chandigarh, and seven northeast states have a common high court at Guwahati. Some high courts have benches in other parts of the states for greater accessibility. So, presently there are 21 high courts, and some of the states, they share the common high court, and also the seven northeast states, they have a common high court at Guwahati. So that is there. This is the high court of Patna, this is the high court of Karnataka, here is the high court of Madras. So firstly, there was only three high courts at three presidencies: Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. Are these different levels of court connected to each other? Yes, they are. In India, we have an integrated judicial system, meaning that decisions made by higher courts are binding on all the lower courts. Another way to understand this integration is that appellate appellate system that exists in India. We're going to study about that. This means that a person can appeal to a higher court if they believe that the judgment passed by the lower court is not just. So if I feel that if one of the district or subordinate courts have given me a judgment and it's on my not in my favor, okay, and I feel that this is not done fairly also, and I should be given another chance to that my case should be heard, then I can approach a higher court, which is the high court at a state level. And then if I feel that even that court is not giving me an proper fair judgment, then I can approach the Supreme Court, and then finally the Supreme Court decision will be final. Okay, let us understand what we mean by the appellate system by tracking a court. State Delhi administration versus Lakshman Kumar and others, 1985, from the lower courts to the Supreme Court. So we'll study through an example. In February 1908, Lakshman so this is a case of Lakshman Kumar, okay, married a 20-year-old Sudha Goel, and they lived in a flat in Delhi, and Lakshman's brothers and the families. Okay, on 2nd December 1980, Sudha died in hospital due to burns. Her family filed a case in court. When this case was heard in the trial court, four of her neighbors were called in as witnesses. They stated that the night of 1st December, they heard Sudha scream and had forced their way into Lakshman's flat. There they saw Sudha standing with her sari in flames. They extinguished the fire by wrapping Sudha in a gunny bag and blanket. Sudha told them that her mother-in-law Shakuntala had poured kerosene oil on her and that her husband Lakshman had lit the fire. During the trial, members of the Sudha's family members stated that Sudha had been subjected to torture by her in-laws, and that they were demanding more cash and a scooter and a fridge on the birth of the first child. As part of their defense, Lakshman said that his mother stated that Sudha's sari had accidentally caught fire while she was heating milk. On the basis of this and other evidences, the trial court had convicted Lakshman, his mother Shakuntala, and brother-in-law Subhash Chandra, and sentenced them all three to death. Okay, so that is it. In November 1983, the three accused went to the High Court to appeal against this verdict of the trial court. The High Court, after hearing the argument of all the lawyers, decided that Sudha had died due to an accidental fire caused by the kerosene stove. Lakshman, Sudha, and Subhash Chandra were acquitted. Okay. You may remember the photo essay on the women's movement in class 7. You read about how the how in 1980s women's group across the country spoke out on dowry deaths. They protested against the failure of the court to bring these cases to justice. The above High Court judgment deeply troubled women, and they held demonstrations and filed a separate appeal against this High Court decision in the Supreme Court through the Indian Federation of Women Lawyers. In 1985, the Supreme Court heard this appeal against the acquittal of Lakshman and two other members of his family. The Supreme Court heard the argument of the lawyers and reached a decision that was different from the last from that of the High Court. They found Lakshman and his mother guilty, but acquitted the brother-in-law Subhash because they did not have enough evidence against him. The Supreme Court decided to send the accused to prison for life. Right to sentences. What do you understand about the appellate system from the given example? So we'll study. Wait, we'll discuss. The subordinate court is more commonly known by many different names. These include trial court or the court of district judge, the additional sessions judge, chief judicial magistrate, metropolitan magistrate, civil judge, alongside in the photograph district court in Raipur. So these are the district court is also known by different names in names. What are the different branches of the legal system? The above case of dowry death falls within what is called as a crime against society and is violation of the criminal law. In addition to criminal law, the legal system also deals with civil law cases. You've read in chapter 4 of the how a new civil law was passed in 2006 to protect against domestic violence. Look at the following table, and now we differentiate what do you mean by criminal law and the civil law. So we'll study the difference. Okay, so here deals with conduct or acts that the law defines as offensive. Example: theft, harassing a woman to bring more dowry, murder. Civil law deals with any harm or injury to rights of individual. For example, disputes relating to sale of land, purchase, good, rents matters, and divorce. So wherever it's about rights of individuals, it comes in the civil law, whereas criminal laws, they deal about conduct or act that defined as offensive, whether it's theft, harassing a woman to bring dowry, or murder. uh, it usually begins with the lodging of a first information report with the police who investigates the crime, after which the case is filed in the court. So first an FRI has to be done, then the police investigates, and finally a case is filed in the court. Whereas in civil law, petition has to be filed before the relevant court by the affected party only. Civil law, a case is filed before the relevant court by the affected party. Whoever is the affected party in a rent matter, either the landlord or the tenant, can file a case. And second, criminal law, if found guilty, the accused can be sent to jail and also be fined. The court gives the specific relief asked for. For instance, in the case between landlord and tenant, the court has ordered to the flat to be vacated and pending a rent to be paid. So criminal laws, they're usually deals with conducts or act that are that the law defines as offenses. So these are, the laws are there and say that if you do this and this is considered an offense, and then the process goes on. Whereas if there's an harm and injury to the rights, if some of my rights are violated, then I have a right to file a case directly to a court. So here first information report will be filed if it's a criminal court, because it's been defined as an offense in the system. So that is how it deals there. Okay, fill in the given table below on what you understand about criminal and civil law. Description of violation, branches of law. So first we'll discuss a group of girls are persistently harassed by a group of boys while walking to school. So it will come in criminal law because harassing is defined as a criminal law in the yeah, uh, IPC. Okay, so it's a branch of criminal law. And what is the procedure? First, first information report will be filed, and the police will investigate, after which a case will be filed in the court. Whereas a tenant who is being forced to move out and file a case in the court against the landlord. So my fundamental sorry my this yeah my rights are being violated. That my right was there. How can I be forced to move out when I have this thing? You can't just be suddenly be asked to move out. Okay, there has to be given a notice period and everything. And so my right is being violated. I have signed a contract, and that is my right to stay for in that particular house for a while. So my civil law is being was it's a civil law because my rights are being violated. So what is the procedure? A petition, I can finally, this file a petition. See, petition, here it's FIR, here in the civil law it's petition that can be filed. I'll find it before a relevant court, that it's usually a district court at the district level. And this thing, the court is filed, it's because I'm the affected party. I'll say I have filed the court, and then the court will give its judgment. So the difference between criminal law and civil law is that criminal laws are usually the acts and conducts which are defined as offensive. The court has already defined them offensive, whereas civil law usually, they are concerned with any harm or injury which is done to my rights. Okay, and here in civil law, I'll file the petition in the court directly, whereas in a criminal law, I'll first go and file an FRI mm, before the police. Okay, I'll file, and then they'll investigate, and finally a case will be filed in the court. And if it's they found it guilty, then they can be sent to jail and also be fined for that particular thing. So that's what we've done here.